The most horrifying things ever live streamed part 5. There will be some upsetting sounds at the end of this video, so viewer discretion advised. This beautiful bride-to-be is sitting alongside of her brother, and minutes away from her wedding where she planned to surprise her fiancé with a helicopter entrance, something she'd been dreaming of since she was a little girl. She's all smiles in the beginning of her live, but once the aircraft begins shaking wildly, her expression melts into anxiety and then pure panic. Still, she tried to close her eyes and calm her nerves. Suddenly, screams erupt, a siren begins blaring, and something unthinkable happens. The aircraft crashed into the woods 1 mile away from her fiancé, who was waiting at the end of the aisle. Nobody survived. The most horrifying things to ever be live streamed part 1 trigger warning. I came across this video a few nights ago and I cannot get it out of my head. 21-year-old Nicole was driving recklessly on the interstate in 2017 while her friend live streamed. Throughout the video, you can see her hands leave the wheel and both girls laughing and bragging about speeding near 80 miles per hour. Suddenly, both girls yell out in fear and the phone flies across the vehicle as it clearly rolls violently. The phone eventually settles as the car becomes stationary and is still streaming. A complete eerie silence sweeps through the air. After a few moments, a man is heard yelling out, "Girls, girls," over and over. Eventually, Nicole begins groaning. The man instructs the woman he is with to dial emergency and is heard discussing how bad Nicole's neck wound was. She began rasping desperately, "I need a drink of water." Her penetrating neck wound went through her throat. The intense burning was creating a consuming need for cool water. Sadly, by the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. She was pronounced dead on the scene. Her friend survived with serious injuries. The most horrifying things to ever be live streamed part 2, trigger warning heights. This next live is a chilling first-hand POV of falling 5,000 feet to death. The most harrowing part of the stream is the groan of death heard shortly after impact. Armin Schmeider gained superstar status after posting a risky but successful jump that garnered 13 million views. In August 2016, he decided to bring fans along for the adrenaline-inducing excursion in the Alps. "Today you fly with me," he told his viewers. In the stream, he is seen securing his wingsuit and gear and placing his phone in his pocket, which was still live, after he takes an unreluctant leap from the high-top mountain. At first, it's impossible to tell that anything was wrong. After 6 minutes into the video, you can hear an undeniable scream followed by impact. Armin goes silent, leaving the eerie sound of cowbells in the background. Moments later, you hear a low-pitched noise that almost sounds like a cow mooing. Eventually, you realize the noise was Armin desperately groaning. A slight rustling is heard as if he's attempting to move. This was tragically Armin's groan of death. The most horrifying things to ever be live streamed part 4 trigger warning. I guess it can't be helped were the last words that this man ever said. This streamer, who goes by the name Tetsu, was known to make poor choices for the sake of more viewers, and this incident was no different. He decided to climb the 12,388-foot hostile Mount Fuji in the dead of winter without any proper gear, gloves, or sense. It is strongly encouraged to only make this climb in the summer months. Throughout the video, you hear the man talking about his fingers freezing and whether or not he will even make it, all while he struggles to climb up through the hardened snow. He refuses to stop filming, even though it's making it more difficult. Just before he makes it to the summit, he says, "Okay, let's go. It's also dangerous here." In the next instant, he slips on the ice, loses his footing, and begins sliding down the steep, almost cliff-like mountain. He picks up more and more speed in his fall. He knew he was about to die and simply states, "I guess it can't be helped," before disappearing from view. Turns out that he chose the wrong path to get to the top. Without gear and skill, he didn't stand a chance. The most horrific things to ever be live streamed part 3 trigger warning. This next one is equal parts bizarre as it is disturbing and tragic. A young, beautiful influencer in China with a following of 700,000 posted a cryptic video on October 14th where she discussed her unhappiness and struggles. She went on to say that it would likely be her last video posted, and if viewers wanted to know why, that they should tune into her live later that day. During her live, she received mixed remarks from viewers when they noticed a bottle of pesticide sitting next to her. Some begged her to stop and get help, but unfortunately, many others had nothing but cruelty to spit. One commenter told her to just drink it and stop wasting their time. The young girl eventually gave in to the trolls and quickly chugged the bottle. Minutes later, she began grabbing her throat as she gurgled and choked up blood. Still, some trolls replied, "Good for you," and finally, she fell into a coma and died the following day, but it wasn't over. Allegedly, some creep stole her cremated ashes to reportedly perform a spirit wedding where two souls marry one another in death. Most horrifying things ever live streamed part 11 trigger warning. This Ohio man is streaming while driving around a residential area. He admits several times that he drives fast and takes his eyes off of the road for seconds at a time to look at his phone and interact with viewers. Some of the people watching his stream ask the man to slow down. He simply giggles and replies, "I can't slow down, it's how I drive." In the moments before the horrifying event, you can see that he is whipping down a slightly curved road. You can hear the sound of the wind vibrating his windows. For a split second, you spot a tree before the car spins out of control and flips. The most chilling part of the video for me was hearing his groans along with a man who found the crash scene. Take a listen.
Yeah. Hey, guy. Hello. God damn it. Tell him to come on. He got a pole.
The most horrifying things ever live streamed part 9 trigger warning train death. On May 10th, 2016, 19-year-old Ocean began her very last Periscope live stream inside of her apartment. She detailed her previous relationship with her ex, who she claimed terribly abused her. She goes on to tell her younger viewers to stop watching because she had something big planned. Despite making herself vulnerable and discussing a dark time in her life, some of her 1,000 viewers proceeded to bully and troll her with comments. The part that shatters my heart is the moment that her cat jumps up to her, possibly sensing that she was deeply hurt, and I wonder if the cat could even sense what she had planned to do. The livestream ends at Eagly train station just south of Paris at 4:29 p.m. Ocean is struck by a passing train, sending her underneath the megatons of metal. The very last clip is haunting in itself. It's of a first responder trying to end the livestream. This reminds the viewer how real this incident was and that a human life who was just seen alive on camera was no longer. The most horrifying things ever live streamed part 10 trigger warning. This one's rough. 22-year-old Satora Baratova decided to live stream her morning commute in Kazan, Russia. She appears to be in a pretty good mood and is seen singing along to an upbeat song on the radio. At one point, she engages with her audience asking, "How are you? What are you up to? Where are you going?" This was a fatal error. You can see her gaze fixing on her phone for longer and longer periods. Near the end, she finally looks back up at the road. Her expression melts into one of dismay and terror. A nauseating crunch is heard at the very moment the video shakes until finally fading into black. That crunch was the sound of her car being completely crushed like an empty soda can. A huge bus T-boned her on her side of the car. The force propelled her out of her seat through the passenger side, where she landed dangling and mangled out of the window. A looky-loo shot a video of the aftermath, and I could only handle the censored version. She died almost immediately after impact.